So if you've already spent any amount of time in the Silly banner, you have probably already ended up with at least one or more copies of Hook. Great, now what? So the TLDR about what Hook brings to a team is that Hook is one of those units in an RPG that does more damage to targets that are suffering from damage over time, in this case, burn. But the trade-off in lots of other RPGs is that those characters tend to not be able to set up their own damage over times. Not here, not Hook. So not only does Hook do tons of damage, Hook has the ability to apply her own burns, which amplify her damage, which then allow her to spread, get this, more burns, which then, there's more, which allows her to get her ultimate faster and more often, which of course is tons of damage right there. And that big ultimate damage feeds into her feedback loop, which allows her to do, guess what? More damage, apply more burns, and did I mention she can heal herself too? Dude, Hook is the truth. So let's talk about Hook. So Hook is a fire elemental type, which means on weakness break, she applies fire damage and burn damage over time. And this is just the beginning of her multiple different ways that she can apply burn damage over time to multiple enemies. Now, on first glance, it doesn't really look like Hook is the type of character that does tons of damage, but she do. She is destruction type. She does huge damage, has great survivability that only gets more survivable with traces. So let's start off with pre-combat. Hook's overworld technique allows her to charge at the enemy dealing damage with a 100% chance to inflict burn to a random enemy. That damage is based on 50% of Hook's attack. So obviously with a character like this, you want to focus on building Hook's attack power as high as possible for more than just the obvious, because her damage over time, her burn, also scales on attack power. So next up, the most boring aspect of Hook is her basic attack, because it stays basic no matter how maxed out you are. Even at E6, all it does is fire damage. Now, when we start talking about talents, this is where Hook starts heating up. I'm sorry. So her talent is called Ha! Oil to the flames, said just like that. When you attack enemies that have burn, she deals additional fire damage and she regenerates 5 energy. So you're gonna notice really quickly when you play Hook, as long as you are constantly able to smack targets that already have burn on them, you're gonna be able to use your ult quite a bit more often. And to make up for the fact that her basic attack has no bonus effects whatsoever, her talent has 2 bonus effects at max E6. These bonus effects allow Hook to spread her burn to adjacent enemies. So as long as you are constantly hitting the target that is burning, you are spreading your fire to adjacent enemies over and over again. And if that wasn't enough, the second bonus effect for her talent allows her to do 20% more damage to enemies that have burn. So you're already starting to notice a trend in synergy with Hook's abilities, right? As long as a target is burning, Hook is going to be doing tons of damage, spreading burn to other adjacent enemies, and just building up tons of extra energy. So what's the catch? How does Hook reliably add burn to targets outside of weakness breaks? So we're gonna do this slightly out of order and talk about her ultimate first. So her ultimate that has been quickly charging because you remembered to be attacking targets with burn, right? Her ultimate does a ton of single target damage and enhances her skill.
Hit start Hook and break
And that skill in question gives you a reliable way to apply burns outside of her overworld attack and outside of weakness breaks. So her skill quite simply does single target damage with a 100% chance to apply burns for 2 turns. And if you use the skill after her ultimate, she does even more damage, and of course, she's gonna apply fire damage to adjacent enemies. She got a little bit of AoE-ness, you know what I'm saying? Not really, but kinda, sorta, basically. And not to sound redundant, her bonus effects for her skill increase her damage by 20% and extends the duration of her burn. Wow! So as you guys can see, Hook is a single target beast. And with all that extra damage and damage over time and bonus damage and constantly regenerating her ultimate, you're gonna notice that even with the strongest bosses, you are constantly chunking away at their HP. And most importantly, the greatest thing about Hook is that Hook is a purple 4-star. So getting all of these additional bonus effects is quite achievable, even free to play, by the way. Easier if you're paying to win. I mean. So to reiterate like a broken record one more time, fire damage does more damage to targets that are burning in general, spreading burns all over the place. Dude, how can we improve on perfection? Light cones improve on perfection, my friend. Now the light cone that I recommend is called Woof. Walk time. I had to make sure I didn't do that in the microphone. This is a light cone that you can get completely free to play as you level your in-game shops, and check out what this do. You're never gonna guess. You're never gonna guess what this light cone does. It increases attack by 10% and increases damage to targets that are bleeding or burning. This also applies to the damage over time damage as well. Hook is the truth. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through the traces because most traces are just bigger numbers, but Hook does have a trace called Innocence, which restores 5% of her max HP when her talent is triggered. So basically, every single time you're attacking someone who is burning, she is also life tapping and healing herself. Dude, she's a beast. And my favorite relic set right now is Musketeer of the Wild Wheat, which increases attack, which of course is going to make her do more damage, and it also scales up her damage over time. Now her most important dupe levels are going to be her E1. This increases her skill damage by 20%. Her E2, which extends her burn duration by 1 turn, always handy. Her E4, when her talent is triggered, there's a 100% chance to burn enemies adjacent to target enemies. This is where you want to be. E4 is like, mwah, creme de la creme. And then E6 deals 20% more damage to enemies that are burning. So I cannot recommend this character enough, especially considering I see so many people with multiple copies of Hook just wasting away in their account. Dude, don't let her looks fool you. Put her on your team. You'll be glad you did.
Just a little something. Think nothing of it. I'm okay.
Do we still have the upper hand? Ready for another?
That's better.
Thanks for the support.
Lance ablaze! Lance forward!
Here I come!
Nice teamwork.
Not a scratch.
Just a little something. Think nothing of it.
We have the upper hand. Ready for another?
Time for a shot.
Lance at the ready. Lance ablaze! Lance forward!
Here I come! Sagacious discernment. Enemy targets detected.
Naughty child. That's better.
Nice teamwork.
Enemy data secured. Net markers activated. Time for a good old counterattack. Time for mischief.
I'm okay.
Ready for another? Thanks for the support.
Just a little something. Think nothing of it.
I'm on guard. Lance ablaze! Lance forward!